I got my Novak shirt on.
They're Novaks, yeah.
So that is the song Mambo Italiano by Dean Martin, and it's appropriate because we're back to Tommy DeVito land. We will be overrun with Italian references, and Tommy Cutlets is back. We'll get into that and all the shenanigans that have happened this week, not just with the Giants, but with the Jets. Truly, our two franchises are shit shows. So we are the three angry Giant fans and a Jet fan. There's host Scott, Giant Mike, and Jets fan Novak. Cardone is carousing around on a business trip this week. He's got other things to do. I think he just wanted to bail based on how shitty we are lately.
This is the second time. Now, this one was after a bye week, so I might give him a break on this one. Last time, I think he was still passed out from the game. From massive head trauma. But this week with no game on, I don't know. I maybe just needed a break, man. It's hard. You cannot 24/7 bring the kind of fervor that dude brings and not need a bye week every now and then.
Maybe apathy has actually set in, even for Cardone.
Yeah.
He did want to change the A in angry to apathetic. So
apathetic.
Guys, what do you think the over-under is on Italian references on Sunday's game against the Buccaneers?
You could set it at 610, and I'd take the over. They cannot stop themselves. To them, this wasn't written into the sort of season or week sketch. This is new for them, so they think it's new and creative. It takes them off some of the old boring stuff they do. But as we all know, it's not. It's not. It's just the same old dug up garbage we're going to hear again and again. We will hear that song this weekend at a break when we're going to commercial. Predictable and lazy.
Yeah, the second I saw that they had announced him instead of Drew Lock, I was like, this is just for the fans, just get ratings. Giants don't give a crap. I mean, it's so dysfunctional. It's so bad. Sorry. I mean, I just really not the right way to go. It just isn't, in my opinion, but whatever.
Now, we, and I'm sure we'll get into this later. I don't mean to steal any thunder, but the only difference between this and what the old Eagles coach did to us is that we're just doing it before the game, where he did it in game, which is tank. I mean, you have a backup quarterback. If you're actually trying to win games, you put your backup quarterback in. None of this garbage about we want to see what DeVito's got. You saw it last year. If you think he's going to be noticeably better than that for some reason, I don't know what the math and science behind that is.
We've talked about the play in the Salah game on coaches being on the screen. I can't imagine the number of times that DeVito's agent is going to be on the screen. When's the last time you've really even seen an agent on the screen? Period.
Not once. Never. Not once.
Speaking of the Salah game, how about D'Amico Ryans on Monday Night Football?
It was out of control, was it not?
It was crazy.
It was every other play that guy was on screen. I'm telling you, we called it.
Yep. Totally. And I still say Salah, though.
Salah gets more, no doubt, but D'Amico is right there.
Ryans and Canales are just all over the place.
Yep.
It's mind-boggling.
GQ model guys.
So before we get into everything, let's give a shout out. So hello, Ashburn, Virginia, population 45,011. It's part of the DC metro area. It's actually the home of the Commanders, so there might be some espionage going here where they're trying to pick our minds for some unknown reason. I'm not really sure. But Ashburn was known as the bullseye of America's internet due to the many data centers that are located there. And it was originally called Farmwell for a mansion named Farmwell owned by George Lee. It's also the home of Wilson Pickett, who sang Mustang Sally.
I mean, I have no witty comments in this town.
No, I got nothing. And we let's be honest. Mike and I asked prior to going on without Cardone here, like, can you give us the name of the town you're going to call out? And we both looked at each other and said, I got nothing. It's just a town. It's just another place. I mean, what are you going to say?
Nothing about America's bullseye for the internet, with all the data centers. I mean, come on.
I mean, actually looks like a pretty cool place. I mean, they got a. I'm looking it up here as I usually do. They got a Perondo's Tex-Mex Grill in town there. They've got a Lost Rhino Brewing Company is there, and right outside of town they've got the where was it? I lost it. Oh, indoor skydiving.
Oh, all right.
This actually looks like a pretty cool place to live, and the data center probably got good jobs. I mean, I got nothing on this one. The name change was good. Farmwell sucks. Ashburn is all right. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, this one has stumped me.
Go Ashburn.
This is
Thinking
where
about
I need
relocating the family.
this
Yeah.
is where Cardone would have some sort of Seinfeld tie-in somehow. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can go there with that, but
So in
He can do it.
true Giants fashion, the Giants had a bye last week, didn't lose in the record area, but they lost in the draft position. They dropped from second to fourth. Actually was fifth until Dallas lost on Monday night, and then they dropped back down to fourth. They benched Daniel Jones. He's going to be the third quarterback, or maybe even the fourth, because they also signed an emergency quarterback too. So a former
touchdown,
Jet,
Timmy Boyle.
touchdown Timmy Boyle is now a Giant.
I love it.
Jones was taking fourth team reps, which I don't know who you throw to. Do you throw to like fans in the stadium when you're taking fourth team reps? Yeah. So the Giants bench Jones. And from here, look, the Daniel Jones era is over. You guys touched upon it. There's a couple of reasons I think they didn't go to Drew Lock. The first is probably contractual in terms of the incentives that he can earn versus DeVito. The second is I think we're embracing the tank. The other part of this is Drew Lock's gone after this year. DeVito might be the backup, so you see what you got in him after you move forward at the end of the season, and then you draft a new quarterback or you sign a free agent and have a bridge quarterback while you wait for a quarterback to come. But guys, Daniel Jones era is done. We're moving forward. This is a good thing, I think, for the future, but everyone thinking that all the ills of the Giants are cured because Daniel Jones is no longer the quarterback are going to be sorely disappointed.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, any thinking fan knows that this team had plenty of problems, and Daniel Jones, as it turned out this season, was certainly one of them. No more defending that dude. I know Cardone would agree with me on that one, but this isn't going to fix much. This is, the thing, and this kind of happened last year too, is they have just drilled over the years into Jones' head that you got ball security number one. You can't throw an interception. You can't. I think they got that dude wound so tight. And we saw it. I mean, we saw it at the game we watched here at my house. He's just afraid to uncork a ball, man. He's just afraid to let her rip. Now, what typically happens, and I think it happened last year, as I mentioned, is you bring a guy like DeVito in and you tell him, just wing it around. Just go. Just play. So he'll probably have some better numbers than Jones has had for most of this year. And we'll hear a lot I told you so's from the people who just live to hate Daniel Jones. But the end result won't change. In my opinion.
But why do you have Locke in the first place? Why are you paying this guy $5 million? He's a higher paid backup. Don't you go into the year thinking if Jones doesn't work out, we're going to go to DeVito? Why'd you bring Locke in?
This is where I don't
understand. It's a clown show to me. Sorry.
Yeah. This is where I start to side with Novak's take on Shane being a bad GM is the GM's responsibility, is to have roster management, and we've had poor roster management this year. And there's a lot of fans are saying stupid shit too. Like, the Giants didn't sign a viable backup this year because they didn't want to hurt Jones's fragile ego and all this other stuff. Name me a situation in the NFL right now where the backup is a viable starter and you want him to push the starter. There's not one out there. Yeah, there's not one there. It's not a tenable situation. It just does not happen in the NFL.
No, it's not. When you say, what are they looking for when they say viable backup? I mean, to me, Drew Lock is the absolute definition of a viable backup. That's what he is. He started games in this league. He's won games in this league. He's played well at times, never consistently enough. But yeah, apparently to answer the question, which I don't know, it's a great question because I don't know. The only thing I can think of is Drew Lock was there in case the Giants were in contention and Jones got hurt.
Yep.
That's it. And in any other scenario where the Giants are not doing well, they're not in contention, and we're basically pulling the plug on the season, we're going to jump right over Drew Lock and put the third string guy in. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's for the fan base; it'll sell tickets." Really, is Danny DeVito going to sell tickets to the Giants game? Does Cardone's brother want to go to the game now because DeVito's? I mean, that's just untrue. I mean, it's going to sell about 11 more tickets because it's DeVito's family that'll be up there getting massive amounts of camera time. But yeah, it's a clown show, like Novak said. The Giants organization is a clown car right now. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and the more stuff that piles out of it, the more ridiculous it looks.
Complete sidetrack here, but you guys realize Danny DeVito's 80 years old? He just turned 80 this week.
Yeah,
80
yesterday, I think.
80 years old.
Yeah,
that's amazing to me.
He's been around for a while.
Short people don't age, I don't think.
No comment.
So as much of the Giants have been a complete shit show, which they have been, the Jets, they might be as big of a dumpster fire. They have a salary cap problem. They just fired Douglas, their GM. They lost to the Colts in a game that they had no business losing. Novak, I mean, how do you even talk about the state of the Jets right now? I mean, Rodgers wants to keep playing, he said this week, but there's no way they can really bring him back next year. They're going to have a new GM and probably a new head coach going into next year. So do you do the thing you've talked about last week, reset the entire thing, new GM, new coach, new quarterback, and then move forward? What's the plan?
So many things I can respond to there. So, I mean, yeah, look, I just call the Giants a clown show. The Jets are 100 times worse. 100 times worse. I would rather be in your shoes because we sold our soul for this year, and look what happened. I mean, Mike called it. I'll give him credit. He said this Aaron Rodgers thing is going to go to the shit, and it did. He was 100% right. That game was impossible to watch. We started out the game 5 straight 3-and-outs. What a joke to begin with. They fought their way back. Then, they end of the game, they've got 2 minutes left. They're burning timeouts when they're trying to, draw the Colts off sides, and now they've down to 1 timeout. They didn't go on 4th and 2. You're 3-7. Go for it on 4th and 2. The game's over if you get the first down. But no, they kick a field goal. Like, and this is from the 4 of us who talk about kicking field goals all the time. I was like, no, go for it. What are you doing? Why are we kicking field goals to go up 5? It makes no sense. So it's just a total disaster, all of it. I mean, you think about it. This is the 5th game of 10 that Rodgers had the ball at the end of the game with a chance to win. He's 0 for 5.
Ugh.
We got the ball with 46 seconds left. No timeouts, but on the 30-yard line. This is our Hall of Fame quarterback with Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Breece Hall. You can't go 25 yards to kick a 57-yarder. Give me a break. It's a joke. The whole thing is just a fucking joke. It's disgusting. They are the laughing stock again. Weigh in on that game, but I'm going to go to Joe Douglas after you guys weigh in because I am beyond angry. I'm apathetic. I don't care. I said it last week. They're just such a joke.
I'll say this about Joe Douglas. The guy's had some good drafts. And I think, I think the Jets right now are making moves to make moves. Woody Johnson to me is what Giant fans have always thought Mara is. And he's the guy that's making some of these decisions unilaterally. Like John Mara, to me, sits back and really lets his football people run things. I think Woody Johnson has done things on his own without consulting with the football people.
Yeah, there was an article yesterday from The Athletic, Diana Rossini, who I love. I think she's great. Basically said that he's been involved heavily since January. I mean, he basically told them, don't Don't pay the defensive line. Get offensive help. He was involved in Tyron Smith. He was involved in Devontae Adams. Like this guy, we and I was look. What I love about this podcast is you guys and Cardone are always the first ones to admit when you're wrong. And I was 100% wrong about owner involvement. Woody is involved. I didn't think he was, and he is, and he is again torpedoing this organization along with the Dick. And Joe Douglas is a great GM. I have said that all along. If you listen back to our other podcasts, I do like Joe Douglas. You think about what he's drafted. You got Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, AVT, Brees Hall, Michael Carter. I mean, he traded away Sam Darnold. He traded away a bunch of people, and he had really good trades. He had a couple of bad draft choices, but that's okay. But he built this roster. The roster is not devoid of talent. It's just not. And to blame him is bullshit because he's not the problem. The whole thing's a nightmare. Who wants this job now? Why would you take this on? You're in salary cap hell. You've got an aging quarterback who torpedoed the organization because he's such a dick. You've got apathy in the fan base. It's a culture of losing. They haven't been in the playoffs in 14 years. Who wants this job? Why would you work for the Jets? No one wants to work here. It's a disaster. So I don't know. I know what they're gonna do, but I'm curious to get your take on it. I know exactly what the Jets will do right now because they're so uncreative.
They're gonna bring in Dion and then get Shedeur Sanders.
No.
By the way, when we admit that we're wrong, I have to say we were wrong about Colorado this year. Colorado, but that being said, Colorado has not beaten anyone. They lost to Nebraska, who is a shit team, but they have a good record.
Yeah, God, everything is going wrong for me in football this year. Yeah, because Colorado is good. They are, but I mean, Dion doesn't have a kid that is a star quarterback after Shedeur, so let me see him maintain this, which he won't because he'll go to the NFL. But back to the Jets, here's what they're going to do because the Jets are going to do the same thing that you guys did 2 years ago, right? And the NFL is so fucking uncreative, every team. They're going to say, all right, let's reevaluate. What team is on the rise? Oh, the Detroit Lions. Well, let's go grab their second in command GM. Let's grab their second in command coach, and let's grab their second string quarterback, and we'll just do what the Lions did, like you did with the Bills. It's the same thing. It's so uncreative. And they're going to get Ray Agnew, who is a Giant. They're going to get Aaron Glenn, who's a former Jet, to be the head coach, and Hendon Hooker is going to be their quarterback. You watch. I guarantee it. That's what the Jets are going to do. They're going to say, the Lions turn around a shit culture. Let's go grab their underlings, and we'll do the same here. Like the Belichick tree and all these other crap trees that these teams try to do. The NFL is so uncreative. It's awful.
Man, I love that call, Novak. I love that call. I mean, I just really do. I can see that.
Of course.
I can totally see that playing out just like that. But I also kind of agree with Scott's. I mean, I also thought that you were going to go with they're going to sell the house to trade up to get Shedeur Sanders. And, but I didn't know because you had told us before it had a Giants connection. So I was like, well, I don't know how that fits a Giants connection unless they're trading maybe with the Giants to get up to that spot. But yeah, no, let's.
For the sake of the pod, I want Dion to be there.
I do not. Please, God, do not let that happen. Although it would be freaking hilarious if Dion and Shedeur went to the Giants.
Oh my God. Speaking of that, one of the things I heard for a bridge quarterback, I've heard this by multiple places, that Justin Fields would be brought in. That would also be hysterical on so many levels. Yes, to the Giants as the quarterback to kind of keep the seat warm while the rookie, whoever that may be, gets ready. But
yeah,
you know who I want for the Jets, for the GM, and this is going to be out of left field, but it's something different. And I love this guy as a commentator and a media guy, and I hate all media and commentators. I want Louis Riddick. I like him a lot. See, I do. He's got experience. I always enjoy his takes. It's out-of-the-box thinking. It's something different, and I want Brian Flores as the coach. Those are the two that I want. It won't happen. That's what I want.
See, I think Louis Riddick actually interviewed for the Giant position, and then he started bad mouthing the Giants when he didn't get it. And of course, we know Brian Flores sued the Giants, saying that they were racist for not hiring him. So it's like, I don't know where you go with those two, but
I do have a question for you two. Why not Jerry Reese?
I'd love Jerry Reese. I would.
Yeah,
Jerry Reese. If you could hire Jerry Reese
Super Bowls.
without Mark Ross. If you
Yeah.
could hire Jerry Reese without Mark Ross, take that. Jerry Reese was a damn fine GM. He did a lot of, I don't want to say reaches. He took a lot of players on athletic ability rather than college performance. But we got guys like JPP because of that. We got guys out of that were really good. But I thought Jerry Reese was a very good GM.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I like Jerry Reese. I didn't understand the letting him go other than the big clean house theory. But, and I don't disagree with Cardone when he's been saying, just fire someone, just do this. I don't disagree with that because it is frustrating to sit back and just have your team seem like they're just taking it, every week right up the pooper. And but teams that do that are not the teams that win. It might give you a little bit of short-term satisfaction. Oh, heads are going to roll, but teams who are constantly turning over coordinators and constantly turning over coaches and GMs and quarterbacks, those are not the teams that win consistently. They're not the teams at the top. These guys are given chances to fail, and a lot of them do early. And if you've made your conviction, if you've done your due diligence. And I'll just use Dable as an example, but it could be anybody. And you believed at one time that he's your guy, then you got to stick with that belief. You got to stick with it until it becomes obvious that it's not working anymore. That's just my opinion about that. But yeah, I like Jerry Reese. That's not unprecedented. I mean, GMs return to old teams all the time. That happens a lot of times. Examples, right here in Carolina. But yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what to make of either of our team situation. I cannot believe that somehow these two franchises represent the same city and play in the same stadium. What are the odds of that? What are the odds that by far the two most disgusting and gross and everything you want to say about them are literally have offices in the same building?
It doesn't make any sense at all, because you would think the NFL wants New York to be good, and I don't know how this happens. I don't know if it is cursed from that stupid Met death. Look, you guys have a history. You have a culture, which we talked about last week, which we all agree is gone. Right? That's dead. But for the longest time, it was there. The Giants just had this aura about them, and I think that's gone now. They're down at the bottom as bottom feeders with the Jets, and they're both so far away from success. So far. I don't see, because there's not like a path, right? You guys are off kilter. We got to start over. Like, it's so bad in both organizations that it's just sad at this point. I don't know where either organization is going to go. There's so much indecision right now. It's awful.
I could see the Giants, drafting a quarterback and having a bounce back year that first year, similar to the Redskins are doing right now. But you know what? Some of the shine's fading off of Jaden Daniels right now too. So it's like,
sure.
as the season goes on, people start catching up and things like that. So you get this short-term bump. I have to go back to something Mike was talking about earlier, because I always laughed when the Panthers hired Matt Rule. And David Tepper talked about, well, we're giving this guy the keys to the kingdom. He's going to be here for the next 15 years. Never say that. That's the kiss of death, because as soon as you say that, you fire the guy 2 years later. And so you never gave Matt Rule a chance. You said you were going to give him the keys to the kingdom, but you never really did. And then you let him go. And so you look like a horse's ass. Matt Rule looks like a horse's ass, and it sets your franchise back. One thing I do like about our two franchises, we don't say that about the GMs that we're hiring or anything like that. We just suck ass.
Pretty much.
Matt Rule, I don't remember if we talked about it on this podcast or not, but Matt Rule had an introductory press conference like nothing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And you have to know that was because of what Scott just said, because Tepper told him, this is yours, go do it. But he talked in his press conference. No coach ever says this. And he's like, this isn't a 1 or 2 or 3 year thing. This is going to take a while. This franchise is fundamentally broken. And this is, it's going to take a little bit of time to get the wheels going a little bit. He said that in the press conference. I mean, can you imagine the Giants hire a guy who's a coach? He comes in and says that he would be run out of town the next day. Like, what is this guy talking about? We but he said that. And then 2 years later, he's gone. And, just like anything else that happened, the people loved him at first. They won a couple games early. And especially with Tepper, I don't care what he says. You just look at his history. You're not getting a bunch of losses right off the bat. No. You're not going to survive that.
So Giants came off of a bye, but they do play the Buccaneers this week. Not much to preview in this game. I think we talked about, Tommy DeVito being the starting quarterback. I'm looking for in this game, I think the Giants will have a better vertical attack than they have with Daniel Jones. I think DeVito will take a few sacks, and I think the Giants ultimately are a far less talented team than the Buccaneers, and they're going to lose. But the thing is, I don't really know what to preview anymore with these games because in my mind, I almost want them to lose going in, even though again, once the game starts, you're sort of rooting for them, but you're rooting them really just for fandom more than anything else.
Yeah. We've talked about that many times, and it'll be interesting. I tell you, think I'm repeating myself from last week here, but it'll be interesting to see what happens to me once this kickoff goes, because in the past, even though my mind is telling me, Mike, the best thing is for this team to lose, and it, I've been unable to admit that, and I've been during the game, I cheer as hard during those games as I do for the Super Bowls, man. I'm off the couch and on knees and all that. But I mentioned last week, for the first time in my memory, I want the tank, and I know it's what's best for this team. And, it's not like I'm only here for this year. I plan on being a Giants fan for the rest of the go here. So it'll be interesting once they kick off. I have a feeling I'll revert right back to, it was kind of like the game we watched where, we cheered like hell during the game. Tracy fumbles, and we all just went about our business and admitted, well, that's probably the best thing. But you just can't help it during the game. I think sometimes you just want to. Ultimately, Jerry Seinfeld made the jokes years ago that we're not really cheering for uniforms.
Yeah. Because
the players change so much, and the only thing constant is the uniform. So you're basically cheering for the clothes.
Yeah, we didn't get any questions about that this week, and I thought we might, and that's sort of our mindset going into these games. And as a fan, I do want the Giants to win, but it's funny because there's different ways to look at this. If the Giants look like the Cowboys did against the Texans on Monday night, then everyone will go apeshit about how bad this franchise is. But then again, if we're like the Jets against the Colts and we look like we're going to win and then we end up losing at the end, everyone goes apeshit. Oh, this team can't close out a game. So it still ends up being result based. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're in that zone now. Novak's in it too, where there is nothing. It's like the fan base is so riled up and so rabid, and this is when the idiots come out at times like this, and the stupidest things get said. And it takes a little bit of winning to have them go back into under their rock. They disappear, but yeah, we are right in prime time for them because anything can happen during the game, and they can claim it as a win for them. Even if the Giants go out and win by 20, the first post on Twitter at the before the whistle, even the final bell even sounds, the first post on Twitter will be like, this team can't even tank right. There's no winning right now. The good, knowledgeable, reasonable fans have to go hide until this thing gets turned around.
I think the perfect scenario for you guys this weekend is DeVito looks great. You play really well. You get the fans fired up. It's not like a dead at met death, and the Buccaneers win on a late touchdown or something like that. And maybe you establish DeVito as your long-term backup, right? And maybe you draft a quarterback this year, and DeVito is like the bridge guy until that quarterback comes in. Like, to me, that's the perfect scenario for the Giants right now. Play well, get some fans hyped up, enjoy the experience, and lose at the last second, I think is where you want to be.
Yeah. You know what I think is funny is, quarterbacks that have been backups that do pretty well end up getting a lot of fan love, and people are like, "Oh, this guy should be starting." And then you look at a situation like we see in Las Vegas with Gardner Minshew. The guy's like, he's teetering on not being a starter. He's a starter. He's not a starter. He's a starter. There's a reason these guys are backups, and people don't realize that. Yeah. It's like once they become the guy, then they're the guy, and you can't have failure, and that's what happens so many times.
Yeah, it's the career story of Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? Just clearly an NFL backup quarterback, but somehow always found his place starting somewhere. And he would have a game that would like blow everyone up, and then he'd suck for the next 3 weeks, and then he'd go for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns against the Dolphins on national television. It's his whole career. It was like that.
Actually, it's a great parallel to Jameis Winston, his first game plan. Everyone was going nuts. Oh, Jameis Winston's here. The Browns are going to be rebounding, and then the second game he sucked ass. It's like you just go back to what happened.
Yeah. So you're right. There's a reason they're backups. Well, I don't remember if it was. I think it was Parcells who said it, but I think I heard Sims relay the story of Parcells saying that every year in and year out, there is 100% no doubt the most popular player on the Giants team is the backup quarterback. That's who every fan loves. That's who every fan wants in the game. That probably goes for all 32 of these teams.
Oh, yeah. So, Novak, the Jets are on bye.
Yep.
You've already had the bombshell moment with Douglas being fired. Any expectation of other news happening during the bye, or is this just going to be an uneventful bye week?
I mean, is there ever an uneventful week with the Jets? I mean, there's really not. I mean, whether it's Adams or Reddick or Saleh or Douglas, for the last month and a half, every fucking week we've got like a new ESPN breaking news for the Jets. The only thing that I could see happening is Rodgers gets a start in this last game, and he all of a sudden has a hamstring injury, and he goes on the shelf for the rest of the year. Watch that happen with the Jets. Just remember that I said this. He's going to have some weird injury that all of a sudden pops up, because that guy is not going to want to ride this out as a loser. He's going to want to get a hamstring injury and go away and let Tyrod Taylor and whoever else finish out the year. So I think that's what's going to go down for the Jets.
I'm waiting to see some like friction between like not friction, but shenanigans going on with Devontae Adams or with Riddick, because those two guys, they've been relatively silent. Riddick went having the exposure on him without signing. Now he's signed and he's like a non-entity. So it's like something's going to happen here.
I mean, that's such a perfect call, Novak. This is, with teams in the position that we're in now, this is what happens. All of a sudden, your great players pull hamstrings, turf toe. I wouldn't be surprised that in 2 weeks if we hear that they're shutting down Neighbors.
Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah,
that's going to happen, and we're not even at Thanksgiving, and we know that's what's going to happen with these teams. It's just sad. It really is.
Yep.
So, Mike, predictions. I'll turn it over to you.
Predictions, man. We got there fast without Cardone here tonight.
With no fervor.
We might be
no
setting a record for speed. We're doing this in a speed run tonight.
We got a lot of questions tonight. So
okay, wonderful, good. Okay, so here's the thing. Novak had another 2-0. He got tired of us catching up with him, so he's pulled back out to the lead. The rest of us went 1-1. Novak correctly picked that the Colts would beat the Jets. For some reason that I couldn't understand when I came back to look at this, myself and Scott and Cardone all picked the Jets. I'm not sure.
We were right for a while.
Why?
We were right until the very end.
It's like the Colts. And we all picked Philadelphia in our bonus game since the Giants weren't playing. So we will start, as always. Novak is going to go wire to wire, I guess, as being our starter.
No.
The bonus game, the records are Novak 14-8, Cost 13-9, and Mike and Cardone 12-10. And the bonus game is San Francisco at Green Bay.
By the way, what kind of a shitty slate is the games this week?
There's
not a good game out there.
No.
I mean, you might want to tee that up and read them at some point because it is so bad. This might be the worst week of the year. I think there's one good game. I really do.
Yeah. There's Kansas City at Carolina. That's going to be fun.
Oh my God.
Detroit. Where's Detroit? They're playing somebody terrible.
Titans or something. There's something terrible. Yeah. It's just bad. All right. So I'll go the Giants first. So, look, I love this DeVito thing. I'm not a Giant fan, but as an outsider, I texted you guys this. I'm excited to watch the Giants now. I mean, it brings intrigue. It brings interest to this shit team. So I am excited to watch this game. I think he'll do well out of the gate. I think he's going to get met death, all excited. But at the end of the day, I think Baker Mayfield is, I almost view DeVito as like a poor man's Baker Mayfield in a way, right? A lot of like grit, and he's got like a little edge to him, and he's not all that talented. But I do like Baker Mayfield, and I think the Buccaneers are better than their record says they are. So I like the Buccaneers here, 24-10. For our bonus game, really hard one to call in my mind. I think the Niners, you want to say that they're on their ascension into the top team in the NFC, but for some reason they're missing a little something this year. I don't like the Niners, and I don't know why. I can't put my finger on what is different about them this year, but I don't see it. I like the Packers at home here a lot. Jordan Love, I think, is a quarterback that is probably in the top 10, so I take the Packers here, 26-24.
You're up, Scott.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Sorry. Maybe my mic was out. So looking at it, I'll start with the Giant game first. I agree with what Novak said. I think DeVito does give them a shot in the arm. They're going to be at home. This Buccaneers team is an odd one. They're 4-6 right now. They've been competitive in games. There's other games that they've lost at the end. They really, shouldn't have been in. Baker Mayfield's made some perplexing throws, which has cost them at times. But even on the road, I don't necessarily think the Giants are bad at home. I think Daniel Jones just didn't perform at home, but I think we're going to see the Buccaneers win this game. And I don't know how it's probably going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be a game I think DeVito will keep them, close until the very end, or it's going to be a complete blowout. So I'm going to lean towards it being close, and I'm going to say that the Buccaneers win 24-20. In the second game, I was going back and forth on this because I'm in a couple of leagues where I'm picking games, every game. And the Packers, there's something about the Packers that just I don't believe in. Love's been inconsistent at times. They haven't really used Jacobs as much as they could. I know the 49ers probably should have won last week and they didn't, and they've underachieved, but McCaffrey's back. And I do think that the 49ers are going to win this game because I think they need this game more than the Packers. So I'm going to go with the 49ers, and I'm going to say that the 49ers win in a pretty high-scoring game, 28-27. So it's going to be close.
That's funny because Cardone has mailed his picks in, so I have those. And then I've already written my picks down. These scores that we've picked are hysterical. I mean, we're all so close on the scores for both games. It's unbelievable. So I go next here. So I also like Tampa Bay in this game. I don't know what changes. I don't think much changes. I think it's going to look a lot different, but in the end, I don't think anything changes. I don't think based on what we saw last year, that Dable's going to call this game like he has a backup quarterback. He's going to throw it out there. He's going to do what he normally does. We're not going to try to hide DeVito. That might be a mistake, but I do think Tampa Bay wins this, and the score looks like every other Giants game this year. Novak, I also have 24-10 in that game. And then in the San Francisco Green Bay game, I'm with Scott on this. I for some reason, I think this is the game McCaffrey gets really back on track. I think we're going to have a big game out of McCaffrey. And I think they're going to ride him to victory here. Going to be close. I don't think they're going to blow him out. I've got 23-21 San Francisco. And then Cardone's picks are Cardone, of course, just gave me the picks, but you can imagine all the gross things he'd be saying about the Giants. And he's picking Tampa Bay, and he's picking Tampa Bay 27-10. So here's the scores of the four of us for the Tampa Bay Giants game. Novak 24-10, Scott 24-20. Mike 24-10, Cardone 27-10. Those are the scores. So pretty sure the Giants are going to score somewhere between 10 and 20. Cardone also liked Green Bay. So it's Novak and Cardone on Green Bay, Cost and I on San Francisco. He also thought it was a close game, 26-23. So our scores for this game are Novak 26-24, Cost 28-27, Mike 23-21, Cardone 26-23. It's like we only have 5 numbers we can pick as scores. We had to line them up.
So by the way, let me run down the list of games this week. So we have the Buccaneers Giants, and we have the Packers and 49ers. The other games are the Steelers and 8.
Before you do this, can Mike and I respond yes or no if we would actually want to watch the game?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do the old.
Yeah.
Steelers, Browns, 8-2 Steelers, 2-8 Browns.
No, down.
Vikings 8-2, Bears 4-6.
I'm gonna say no.
I got a little interest in that. I like seeing Caleb Williams suck, so that might be the one I have on.
Lions 9-1 versus the Colts 5-6.
I like watching the Lions.
I watching the Lions too, but no, not really.
Not really.
Patriots 3-8 versus the Dolphins 4-6.
Absolutely
oh my God.
not. What a
Who
disaster.
gives a crap about that game?
Cowboys 3-7, Commanders 7-4.
No, sorry.
I won't
Cowboys
watch it.
Suck. They're so hard to watch.
That might be the only reason I would tune it in, just to see them
get
fake punts from their own 10.
Chiefs 9-1 versus the Panthers 3-7.
That's a dog.
No, that's a dog, is right.
Titans 2-8 versus the Texans 7-4.
Nope. Awful.
As soon as you said Titans,
nope.
As soon as you said Titans, I don't care who the other team is.
Titans and the Giants might be the 2 unwatchable teams out there.
Yep.
Broncos 6-5 versus the Raiders 2-8.
Nope.
Who cares?
Bad.
Nobody cares.
No one cares.
This one might have a little bit. Cardinals 6-4 versus the Seahawks 5-5.
I mean,
I won't.
I don't like
it,
either of those teams, So
they're just
I haven't
out West
seen,
Coast.
Yeah, I haven't seen second one of the Cardinals this year, so I might be a little curious to see why their record's so good. So that might be one I flip to.
It feels like those two teams play each other every week for whatever reason.
Yeah, it really does.
Right?
That game's every week in the NFL.
The Sunday night game, Eagles 8-2 versus the Rams 5-5.
That's got a little bit,
something
flash.
Maybe
something
a little bit.
That's a hard maybe.
And the Monday night game might be the one we could have used as the second backup, and that's Ravens 7-4 versus the Chargers 7-3.
Yeah,
that's a good game. Interesting game.
That's
on Monday night.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
So by the way, the Steelers Browns is a Thursday night game, 8-2 versus 2-8.
Good. Go to bed nice and early.
So looking around the league last week, by the way, guys, Joe Burrow, I looked at this week. Joe Burrow has 27 TDs and 4 interceptions, and the Bengals are probably going to miss the playoffs. That's incredible. This to me is the cautionary tale when people talk about the Giants and the Jets just being a quarterback away. Well, you get Joe Burrow here. Are we a playoff team?
No.
No, I
At
mean,
least on the Giants, we're not. Maybe on the Jets, you are. Jets
Yeah.
have more talent than the Giants right now.
they do. I feel like I've watched a bunch of those Bengal games. They've been screwed by the officiating more than even Scott, more than your Giants. The Bengals have been the more screwed than any team I've ever seen, candidly, this year. So they should not be the record that they are. He is an incredible player to watch, I got to say.
Frosted tips and all.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
he's fun to watch. Remember that playoff game? He got sacked like 13 times and they won the game.
Yep.
Never even came close to turning the ball over. I mean, he is rock solid. If imagine him on a team where they could actually like protect him. And I know they're a little bit better at that now than they were a couple of years ago, but yeah, but I mean, you have to think about it, right, Novak? I know you'll agree with this. The NFL's worst nightmare is the Cincinnati Bengals being the team that turns over the Chiefs.
100%.
It's got to
No
be the
doubt.
Bills. It's
Yep.
got to be the Bills
And
What I-
that's what I was going to go. If you're talking
or the
about the league,
Steelers.
Scott, is there a more like I texted you guys this and I stand by it and I said it earlier this year. If I'm starting a team today, fuck Patrick Mahomes. I'm taking Josh Allen. That guy
Yeah.
is, I mean, what a baller that guy is, right? Did you see that touchdown run he had where he could have
Yep.
just walked in the end zone and he turned around and just fucking leveled the defensive back from Kansas City? Like, give me that guy. Like,
Yeah.
I want so badly to have him on my team.
Well,
Yeah.
of
I will
course,
take
they were-
Josh Allen over anybody in the NFL.
of course, they were calling that play the play of the year. So that's the play of the year until this week when someone else will surpass
Yeah.
the play of the year.
It overturned the play of the year from the week before. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I be honest with you, I don't disagree with that. That was an awesome football play on everybody. I mean, the play was clearly, the quick pump fake left, and then they were supposed to have something wide open to the right, and it wasn't there. Great defense by the Chiefs on that. And to Novak's point, Allen just makes a split-second decision because if he even stops for a second, he's dead.
Yep.
He makes a split-section decision that this isn't open. I'm not going to throw the ball to the guy, which Daniel Jones would have done. He would have thrown that ball to the covered guy because that was a set play call. And he takes off, and not only does he get the first down, but he gets a touchdown, and he's running over Chiefs in the process. Awesome. Good
And
stuff.
he's so likable, right?
And he was getting
Yeah.
punched in the face while doing it. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah.
I
They're
didn't see
gonna
that.
they're gonna have to do something about this because guys now are just coming in the pile throwing haymakers at people and they're trying to punch the ball out, but they're actually punching the people in the process sometimes.
Yep.
So Steelers rolled again. So the Steelers beat the Ravens. Another low key game, but another win for Mike Tomlin. The Steelers team is amazing to me. And I don't think they're going to go anywhere. I think they'll make the playoffs and they might win a game or they, but to me, the story here is Mike Tomlin. We've been talking about this on this podcast. The guy just gets results from this team.
He's got Russell Wilson, who everyone had cast aside as like a loser, and he's finding ways to win with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Like 8-2, whatever they are, like how can you not think that this is the most unbelievable story in the NFL and no one's talking about them?
Yeah, no. I don't know if they publish voting or anything like that, but it is so not close for Coach of the Year right now, in my opinion.
Not even
I mean,
close.
it is nowhere near close. This coaching job Mike Tomlin has done, and probably Mike Tomlin should have been Coach of the Year like 5 of the last 7 years, actually, if you really look at what he's been dealing with, what the hand he's been playing. Unbelievable. Again, just, first of all, can't win a game by kicking field goals, right? Well, you can if your defense is badass. Many teams have proven that over the years, and I didn't watch that game. I'm sure there's a point where maybe the Steelers kicked their third field goal and the announcers were just wringing their hands about, how, you can't kick field goals. I mean, who even attempts 6 field goals in the NFL these days? How many of those would the analytics have said, go? It's unbelievable game and unbelievable coach. Novak said it last week. I'll reiterate it this week. If the Steelers fired him today, I would advocate for the Giants to fire Dable immediately and hire that guy.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Do you think that he looks 1 second at analytics?
No.
He goes everything by gut because he knows his team. He can sense the game, and field goal after field goal after field goal, and he thought, we're going to win this game if we just continue to kick field goals, stop them on defense, and we've got their number. Like, God.
By the way,
Why
after
can't I
that
have
game,
coach?
Justin Tucker was complaining about the field conditions.
Oh, fuck off, Justin Tucker. He's so
the guy
annoying.
against him made 6 field goals. So
Yeah, exactly.
The field conditions weren't too bad for that field goal kicker.
3 over 50.
Yeah.
And stop with the Lamar Jackson MVP crap. Stop.
Yeah.
Just get over that. I mean, enough. I've had enough of that. Get over it.
And I'll say this too about just Tomlin and the Steelers as a whole. There's not been a guy who's been more consistent year over year with a roster that's usually mediocre. I don't know how you can even ever defend that.
Yep. Seems mediocre every year. And you look up at 9 weeks and they have 7 wins. And, there was that year, remember they started out slow and everyone's like, well, this is it for Tomlin. And they ripped off like 8 in a row in the middle of the year. I mean, guy just gets it done over and over and over. And the fact that there are Steeler fans out there who really they want Tomlin replaced. I haven't heard that as much now that they're 7-2. I haven't heard a bunch of that, but I don't know if you guys heard Colin Cowherd this week after this performance by the Steelers saying that, he likes Mike Tomlin, nice guy, but he thinks the league has passed him by a little bit. He thinks his leadership style is stale, was a quote.
Oh, come on.
I don't, when the season starts, if you want to have that take, that's a take. Have it. Maybe we'll see what happens during the year. But with the Steelers sitting here just knocking off your MVP and the previous second best team in the AFC by kicking field goals, that's a bad take.
In the preseason, weren't the Steelers expected to be last place in that division?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, and Sean Payton, who's apparently God's gift to coaching, couldn't win dick with Russell Wilson. But Mike Tomlin apparently can go 4-0 with this guy.
Doesn't matter. Yep. Here's a prediction: Steelers pick up Daniel Jones next year.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it. I'm thinking the likely places for Jones are Steelers or the Titans.
Daniel Jones will be a quarterback in this league for 10 more years as a backup spot starter bridge quarterback, guaranteed.
I think that's a good call. Yep.
By the way, guys, the Lions are just kicking ass and taking names,
and
they're doing it with panache. Like they're they're doing trick plays. They're taking the whole year, the whole playbook out. They're running up the score on people. And the only thing I worry about with the Lions is that they're peaking too early. It's still early in the season. People don't realize it's still November, and you have another month and 2 weeks before the season's done. And in that time frame, a lot can happen. We've seen it happen many years. Last year at this time, the Steelers or the Eagles were the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl, if you guys remember.
Yep. It's a real thing. That's something I used to laugh at, the peak too early. Being a Giants fan where we're usually 0-5, when I hear people say they're peaking too early, I'm like, oh, please. I wish we could peak too early. I mean, but it's a thing. You see it happen a lot. Teams in this position, something happens.
Yeah, the Lions are the team that they better hope that they don't get a well-coached team in an early round. A 49er team or a Packer team or someone like that could pick them off because they're a better coach. Not that I don't love Dan Campbell. I think he's great. Don't get me wrong. But he has a tendency to make a lot of risky choices. And if you go up against a well-coached team and they keep it close, I could see the Lions getting picked off in a divisional round or a championship game.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys got anything else from around the league?
No, I'll just go back for 1 second to Mike Tomlin, and I think proof that he doesn't follow analytics. They kicked a 27-yard field goal in that game. What coach is kicking 27-yard field goals right now? When you're in the red zone, I mean, analytics says to go for it almost every time. A 27-yard field goal is what? You're snapping the ball from the 10-yard line?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'll start with Novak this week. Pet peeves.
Well, without Cardone here, I might get two in if that's okay.
That's fine. Yeah, I actually have two too. So
So do I.
All right, good. So I've got a personal one, and then I've got a NFL one. So my personal one is so back in the fall of 1989, I was a freshman at Susquehanna University.
Susquehanna University,
That's right, in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania.
right down the
And
road
so
from Bucknell.
right down the street from Bucknell, and a lot of my fraternity brothers listen to this podcast. And I walked into a room of like 12 guys watching football on a Sunday. And this guy, I'll say his name because I'm sure he doesn't listen. His name is Doug Rigner, and he was there for like a semester, and then he transferred out. And he had this like thick Philly accent, like talk like this, like that kind of guy.
I hope he's not listening.
No, I don't care if he does. So I walk in the room, and he goes, "So, Novak, you giving up on the Jets?" And that statement that he said to me has haunted me for like 30 years. So like anytime he happens to Jets or Douglas getting fired or Saleh, they're 3-8 or whatever, I'm getting texts, and I can show you on my phone, like 15 guys. Novak, you giving up on the Jets? No, I'm stuck with this team. So my pet peeve is I'm stuck with that comment from 1989 that I still live with every day, and I hate it. So yeah, I'm stuck with it. So no, I've not given up on the Jets. I'm still a fan. God, I hate that team. But my NFL pet peeve is watching the Jet game. The commentators apparently went into the game with one idea.
They always do.
Oh, right. It's the narrative that they have to force all game long. And that was, and I texted you guys during the game, the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams connection, right? They have this, they're like best buddies, and they work so well together. If they're such a fucking great connection, why is he not connecting with them with 46 seconds left when they have a chance to tie the game or win the game? And they feel the need every time. It's like a 5-yard screen to Devontae Adams. Oh, the Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams connection. Fuck off. They don't have a connection. The guy was open, and it was like he would have thrown it to anybody. And Rodgers he's done. He's over. And yet they want to make something that is nothing. And the NFL is so bad at like forcing this narrative down our throats, whether it's the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams connection, or the Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce connection. Stop it. I've had enough. Every game, there's like this one thing they have to like constantly talk about. It drives me crazy. And that was the one that drove me crazy from that game. It was a pet peeve all game long. So that was my two pet peeves.
I like that.
But then they even have a graphic this week for the connection, like the cartoon buddies, or they had some kind of,
They did. And
listen, the guy, they played on the same team for a few years. Jesus Christ, let it go.
Exactly.
Like, my God.
I think part of the reason the Giants are starting DeVito over Locke is DeVito has a cartoon for Fox. I don't know if Locke does.
Yeah, they'd have to spend money on get the creative team to get a Drew Lock cartoon.
So, Mike, I'm going to give you pole position because I'm going to go next on
all right.
the
Is that
pet
pole
peeve.
position?
I
don't think that's pole position.
That means you're the anchorman.
You're the anchorman, yeah. So right. It's funny that Novak said that about his fraternity brothers because we're at that age now where like you see a fraternity brother from college, you get excited. So I had a fraternity brother come down to Charlotte this past weekend, Chris Ballant, and his daughter is looking to be a field hockey goalie for Queens College. So they were in town. They did a visit, and we went out to brunch. So I only got to spend a little bit of time with them. But it's awesome to see guys. They're all our age. We got kids in college or getting out of college and going into college and things like that. So it's good to see that. So he went to Bucknell.
Does he have a brother or relative who lives here named Michael? Mike, do you know?
I don't know if he does. He has a cousin that lives here.
Yeah, I know a Ballant. I play darts with a Michael Ballant.
I'll have to ask him.
Yep.
I will ask him. So I do have two pet peeves too. My first one, and we sort of touched upon this because it was pertinent to the Steelers game, and it's pertinent around the league. It's the field goal management that's happening. So we saw with the Steelers. The Steelers took the field goals. They took the points when they presented to them. And yet we saw a game on Monday night with the Cowboys where they could make a game a one-score game by kicking a field goal. They made the field goal. There was a penalty. So they took the penalty off the board. They took the field goal off the board, which was I was fine with that. But then they got into a position where they had a 4th and 2. They could have kicked the field goal again to make it a one-score game, and they decided to go for it on 4th and 2, and they ended up obviously losing afterwards. But the thing is, these coaches, they dismiss the field goals over and over again to the point where you could make a game a one-score game. You could close that gap, and you just don't do it. Or you could add to your score, and you just don't do it. And time again, we see field goal management costing teams games. And then to Mike's point that he's made before, the coaches just lean back and go, it's what the analytics said. And so everyone dismisses it. But guys, the field goal management part has been so bad for so many teams that I just don't understand. The other thing I don't get too, and I'll talk about this with the Bears game. If anyone watched the Bears game at the end, they had more than enough time to gain some yards to make that last second field goal a little bit closer. They didn't. So they settled. They settled for a 47-yard field goal attempt, which was blocked at the end. Why not make that attempt a 40-yard attempt or a 38-yard attempt? Why
at least try to?
Why just sit there and let clock run out instead of trying to make plays to go a little bit forward? When teams settle for a field goal of that length and they don't make it, that's on the coach. I'm sorry, that's on the coach.
Mm-hmm. And I think we could have guessed this week that would have probably been amongst Cardone's talking points, because it was the same coach who said yards don't matter on the Hail Mary.
And then when they asked him about that, actually, he did in the post-game conference. He said, "Well, we were fine with that distance for Cairo Santos."
Yep. He basically said the same thing without saying the exact same words. Was with those extra yards wouldn't have mattered. That's the same coach. It's the same coach, and he's got Eberflus, or how does Cardone say it? Eberflux, whatever. He's got to be fired. He's a terrible game manager, and those two spots this year. That now, granted, both of those. Look, a lot of that. Like, this is what would happen with Denny Green. Denny Green would make calls like that, and Scott and I would laugh. Oh my God, this guy is the worst coach I have ever seen, and it would work out for him. So there's plenty of coaches in the league who would have made the same decision Eberflus did, and they would have made the field goal. And my God, what should have happened with the Hail Mary, no matter where they're throwing it from, that shouldn't have been caught. That's ridiculous. So Eberflus has got like the Jim Fossil black cloud over his head, where every decision he makes is the wrong one, no matter what. But you see, you can't win with guys like that. You can't. He just can't get away with anything. Every decision he makes burns him. And he's got to be out of there, because I'll tell you what, the Bears, the fans, the players, and the front office think they're a good team.
Yep.
And they're not playing well. And when they don't make the playoffs, he is going to get the target square on his back.
And for some reason, the players on the team do not like Caleb Williams. I don't know if it's his personality. I don't know what it is, but they do not like that guy.
Going back to your first point, look, one of my top 3 favorite movies of all time is Moneyball. It really is. I love that movie, right? Because analytics, in my mind, belong in baseball.
Yeah.
Because a walk is as good as a hit, right? And which is the essential. If you break that whole movie down, that's what it was basically saying. But in football, like, this whole idea of kicking field goals or not, like, there's so many factors that have to come into play, and these teams just don't take into consideration whether or not, like, sure, the analytics say kick a field goal or don't, but what it doesn't tell you is your defense sucks. You're at home. You're like, it's trending in the wrong direction or the right direction. It's a momentum changer if you miss or you make it. Like, analytics does not belong in football, in my opinion. And I hate that what it's become in that area, specifically with kicking field goals, personally.
Yep.
What I think is different about analytics with football versus baseball is you have 11 different people doing different things in football.
Correct.
And it completely changes year over year from your defensive philosophy to the offensive philosophy. So you don't have any continuity there. No. So like Mike has always brought up, with Dable, even on the fourth down or the 2-point conversions, it's like, we're not the Chiefs, we're the Giants. And the Giants are going to suck at making 2-point conversions versus if we have, the best infield in baseball, you want a guy to hit a ball on the ground or something. It's completely different. Yeah. And you have a far less number of games to do it too.
Does analytics tell you that, like, it says kick a field goal from a 55 yards. Does it factor in wind, rain? Like, give me a break. Nope. Like, come on, it does not.
And that's why it's a cool thing. It belongs in baseball. It's another way to enjoy the game. I like it in baseball, but it doesn't work in football. Analytics, there's enough data going in the throughout a baseball season where you can turn the players into stats. They are nameless, faceless players. And that doesn't work in the NFL. It doesn't work.
Well, a position in baseball is static. You basically have a area of grass that you patrol. And so everyone knows where you're patrolling. Everyone knows where the guy's hitting the ball. So there's a lot of static data there.
Yep. And to Novak's point, when they're talking about field goals, weather's not a factor. The fact that it's snowing, the analytics doesn't know that it's snowing. Analytics doesn't know that when you're going for it on 4th and 3, that your offensive line is a rusty gate. You have no chance to make that play. It doesn't know that. It just says go.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So my second pet peeve is this whole thing where they talk about replay assist or eye in the sky. Guys, I don't know when it's used. So we saw a game earlier this week with the Dolphins, and there was a clear face mask against a Dolphins player, and they had thrown a penalty against the opposing team on that same play. And everyone saw that it was a clear face mask. And the announcer's like, "Oh, that's a face mask. They have to do something about that." Well, like 25 seconds after that play, while the people were talking about it, the refs were talking about it, they dropped the flag. And they caught the face mask. And then the word from the booth was, well, that's probably from replay assist. So I want to know, when is replay assist actually used and when it's not? Because when the Giants are playing the Cowboys, or I don't know if it was the Cowboys. When the Giants are playing, I think it was the Cowboys. When Bellinger was called for a face mask, when it was actually the Cowboy player that grabbed his face mask, replay assist didn't step in for that. That was a nationally televised game. When Matthew Stafford... Was it Stafford that has? Yeah, it was Was it Stafford that has? Yeah,
that was Darnold. Grab? Was it Darnold?
No,
Darnold. Stafford?
Darnold against Stafford. Yeah. No, it was the Vikings against the Rams. So when Darnold had his face mask grab in the end zone and no one saw it, but everyone saw it on TV, they couldn't step in and throw a flag on that because of replay assist. So if replay assist is going to be used, I'm all for it. And everyone on that broadcast said, well, they got the call right. This is what replay assist is for. It's fine if you want to get it right, but get it right every fucking time. Just don't make it inconsistent where replay assist comes into play certain times and it doesn't come into play other times, because otherwise you give the appearance, as we've always talked, of bias. So I just want to know what the rules are for eye in the sky. No one will tell me.
If they're not using it in every game, then they shouldn't use it at all. It's not fair to have some games have that and other games not. And I don't know if that's the case. They might be using it in every game, but it just certainly seems like a lot of games I watch, it never gets talked about, never gets mentioned. Even on a bad call, they're not, you don't see the officials come back and turn it over. And it's not right just to have certain high profile games be officiated differently.
Well, they missed a blatant face mask on the Bill against the Chiefs, grabbing a Bills face mask as he was running through the line on Sunday, and nothing changed that. So it's one of those things where When do you use it? When don't you? I just want it to be consistent. That's all.
I don't think that you can throw the red flag as a coach on a missed face mask right now.
You cannot.
You cannot. But there's been 3 examples of that happening this year. I will fucking promise you, 10 o'clock on 11/20/2024, next year, you will be able to contest a missed face pass call. Every year there's something that like changes for the following year. This year it's going to be the missed face mask, guaranteed.
Yep. And the other one they should have this year is that if the officials call the penalty accidentally on the wrong team, that the eye in the sky can correct that. As happened with the face mask that Scott was talking about earlier.
And I'll also say, again, where this podcast is weeks and months and years ahead of its time, the illegal man downfield will be changed after this year.
Gotta go. It really should be. It should
be. I forget what game it was. Maybe it was recent, but like there was like
Houston.
Yes, it
against
was a Houston
Dallas
game. Yes, the first play of the game.
Yep.
Tunsil
was a touchdown.
Like illegal man. Yeah, by Nico Collins. I would have won my freaking fantasy game if he got it. But yeah, it was that. That's the one. I was like, he was like 1 yard, and he wasn't near anybody.
Nobody was around.
They brought the whole thing back. That one will be changed as well.
Yep. Yeah, that has to be. That is absurd, that call, and when they're calling that,
it's the worst.
When Mike brought it down, when he broke it down a couple pods ago, and he said, "There's no like upside or downside to what happens on an illegal man downfield." That really put it into perspective, because what are you really legislating against?
Right.
You don't get it. Right. You don't get an unfair advantage from a guy being downfield.
Right. Shouldn't that be what a penalty is? You're gaining an unfair advantage. Yeah. What unfair advantage are you gaining by a guy being 1.1 yards off the line of scrimmage and touching nobody?
It's like in basketball. I think the worst basketball foul is the 3-second violation. What the fuck cares if a guy's in the 3-second violation for more than a second? Does it matter? Does it impact the play? No. It's the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, it's got to go. And you notice on these, the reason it's got to go is because it seems like it's always on huge plays, right? It's always on huge plays.
Yep.
And it just seems to be the way that works out. And the other common thing with them this year is that the person who's downfield isn't touching anybody.
No.
When he's down there. That just seems to be the common denominator of all of those. Yeah. Yep.
So Mike, you get the last position. All
right,
Anchorman.
I got 2. They're really short, but before I get into mine, I did want to go back to the Cowboys field goal again that Scott talked about, where they took the one off the board, which I agree with taking that off the board. I agree with Scott. That was one of the big ones when I was growing up. My dad was always like, "You never take points off the board." I've never seen a team say, "No, we won't want the first down. We're going to keep the field goal." Not once have I ever seen that. So yeah, I don't. Maybe in a game winner situation. It
screwed me from a fantasy standpoint by that 64 yarder would have helped.
Yeah. But this is my question about it. So the Cowboys then took it from there. They got down to the 8-yard line, and it was 4th and 2 when they decided to go for it. So it was 4th and 2 on the 8-yard line, and they're down at that time. They're down 10 in the game.
You go for the field goal.
I want to know because they didn't show us on the screen, and I have a sneaking suspicion that they don't show us on the screen when analytics says don't go. I don't think we get to see that. But because I can't imagine even analytics in that situation would have told them to go for that.
No.
You always make it a 1-score game.
2 minutes left in the third quarter. A field goal makes it a 1-score game. And there's no guarantee, as Scott always likes to mention on these things, there's no guarantee that if you pick up that 4th and 2, you're going to score a touchdown anyway.
Exactly.
You're still on the 8-yard line. So, I just wanted to circle back to that. I would be curious in that situation what analytics actually said. But my actual pet peeves are going to be very short. We just talked about the play that is the center of one of my pet peeves, and that was the touchdown by Nico Collins on the first play of the game against Dallas. But my pet peeve about that is this. I was losing in fantasy when that game started. I needed exactly 4 points out of my quarterback to win that game. That was a 9-point play for my quarterback. I could have gone to bed. And they called it back. So here I am at almost midnight, sitting up, watching this game I care nothing about, and just praying that the Texans don't get the ball back and CJ Stroud takes 3 knees, because then I'd lose rushing yards that would cost me the game. Because I about turned it off when he got to 4. I said, they're not even going to throw the ball anymore. I don't have to worry about an interception. I don't think he's going to fumble. And like I was about to say, screw this, I'm going to bed. And then I said, oh my God, if they take knees, I could lose enough rushing yards. So I stayed up for that whole freaking game. And I figured I could bring that up this week. I don't like to talk about fantasy when Cardone's not here, because I know it enrages him to even hear about it. But yeah, so that fantasy football, man, it is. I remember, like, Cardone brought it up last week, I think, when he said when people first got him involved, that it was like, oh, it makes the games so fun to watch, and it does. And he's right. It doesn't make the games fun to watch. It makes them miserable.
Yep.
Miserable. Up at midnight watching the Dallas Cowboys and the Houston Texans in a blowout because I don't want some guy to take knees. That's you never realize the insanity of that. What has that reduced me to? By the way, how about, we talked about stadiums and atmosphere and everything. The Cowboys suck. That stadium was 80% Texans fans.
It was.
Oh, it was huge. It was, yeah. Every time there was a cheer, I was like, oh, what's going on? It was Texans.
So don't give me some bullshit about these stadiums that the crowd's always there and making all kinds of noise. When you suck, the fans don't come. And yes, Seattle. That counts for Seattle. For years, that stadium out there was a morgue when Seattle just stunk. Bullshit with this. Why don't they play? I've stopped going to games. Why don't they play? It's nothing to do with you. You're there to give them money. You're not affecting the outcome of the game. Go stay home. Anyway, that wasn't one of my pet peeves, actually. That came in late. But no, my main pet peeve was, with the Giants not on, I was flipping around a lot. So I saw a lot of commercials this weekend. And there's one that's been on for years, and there's many different versions of it. And it's always bothered me. And I decided just this week to pick it up for a pet peeve, since I wouldn't have anything to bitch about the Giants. Do you guys know the NFL apparel commercials where they got like people breakdancing and popping and locking and you know what I mean, like adjusting their hats? Who are they selling apparel to? It's not breakdancers. I don't understand why that commercial exists and why it's on year over year over year over year. With like the club music in the background. I've never been to the club, but I imagine when you go in there, it's not a bunch of people with different NFL jerseys and jackets on. That's just my impression. So I'm not sure. We've talked years and years, like every other podcast at least, about how the NFL might be the worst company in the world as far as knowing who their consumers are. And I think that is just a prime example of not knowing who your consumers are. I guess you could argue that they're trying. They know us guys are locked in. Maybe they're trying to reach out, but yeah, I have never driven down the road and seen breakdancers with Giants and Jets jackets on, doing their thing. So
no, it's so true. Because there's so many people that women wear jerseys to the game, but do you ever see like a woman at like Harris Teeter wearing a jersey? No. And I don't even wear my jet gear out unless the game is on or I'm going to the game. It's not like you wear it a normal day.
Yeah.
But they make it seem as if like that's part of your outfits for when you go out, and that's it's ridiculous. It's so funny.
Yeah.
That's a really good one, Mike. I love that one.
My wife, once a year at school, they have their NFL day, right? Every woman, teacher, guidance counselor, principal, whatever in that school borrows something from their husband to wear that day.
Steph wears my jerseys. Yeah.
My favorite picture of my two daughters is I have my older one in a Chad Pennington jersey, and the younger one is in like a Jets onesie. So other than that, like they wouldn't wear Jet stuff if I paid them at this point.
Yep.
So we saw this week that the Chiefs failed at perfection. The Chiefs.
He always starts going downhill right after the pet peeves.
So the Chiefs failed at perfection. But But Rugged Uncle is as close to balanced perfection as you'll find, especially in men's hairdressing innovation. With the strength of wax and the texture of clay and the silkiness of a pomade, Rugged Uncle's superior styling butter is closer to the perfection of the 72 Dolphins than the imitation charade of the Chiefs, which I think we can all agree. The Chiefs have been propped up probably a little bit prematurely this year.
I have an interesting note on that later.
Good. So Rugged Uncle's styling butter is rich, it's decadent, and it's worth every penny. And it's real and it's spectacular. So go to ruggeduncle.com, enter code AngryFans, and get 20% off your order. Be rugged.
Nice.
Look, I'm going to tell you, I don't have a hat on tonight for the first time in like weeks.
Do you got Rugged Uncle?
I have my Rugged Uncle on.
Yeah.
Right? And without Cardone, I'm the only one with hair on this podcast. And I mean, I got to say, I'm looking pretty fine right now with my Rugged Uncle. Just
I noticed something. I noticed
right,
something.
Mike?
Yeah, I totally
Absolutely.
did. And I also have a big announcement. I have decided to grow my hair out just so I can use Rugged Uncle. Now, the last time I made an attempt at growing my hair out, it looked like Ohio Stadium where the Buckeyes play, the big horseshoe. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe the Chinese will come up with something between now and then. And but yeah, I'm with Novak now. I want to be a Rugged Uncle. I have no chance, but I got to give it a shot. Got to try something.
How much can we get you up to if you grow the horseshoe out and with long in the back?
Oh man,
that would be a really good look for Mike. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, there's like a TV character on TV who looked like, might have been an animated thing. I wish Cardone would know it. Who had that particular hairstyle?
Let's go for that.
The Ohio Stadium on top and the mullet in the back. That would be fantastic. I get a big O tattooed right in the middle of my head.
No, but the NY up there, right there in the middle.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Just like your hat right now.
That's right.
I want to be a Rugged Uncle. I'm just going to stay bald.
We're missing a key ingredient there.
So. I am missing a key ingredient there. I fully understand that. So we're gonna go to questions. We got a lot of questions this week. My friend Mike Harrison asked, who played the better version of Satan? And this would have been a perfect one for Cardone.
Yeah.
But is it Al Pacino in Devil's Advocate, or is it Jack Nicholson with Witches of Eastwick?
All right. First of all, I want to tell people out there, we need more questions like this. The questions don't have to be football questions.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. They don't.
This,
no, please.
If anybody listening, please, anything that can come off your crazy skulls. This is awesome. I'm excited about this. I've never seen either movie, so I don't know.
No, I love Jack Nicholson in anything he does. So, him and Witches of Eastwick, I remember him in that movie, and he was maniacal. That's what you want in Satan. So it's.
I would have to agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. What was the other one?
Al Pacino in Devil's Advocate.
See, I did see that one. So, and I've never seen The Witches of Eastwick. So, my vote would have to be for Al Pacino, but I will watch Witches of Eastwick to get her better. Who played the devil in Little Nicky? Because I think that was the best portrayal of the devil.
That was an actual good one. I can't remember who played the devil in Little Nicky.
Awesome question. Keep those coming, man. Love it.
Please.
So he also asks, would a win over Dallas on Thanksgiving be good or bad? At this point, guys, I don't want to see wins, but we talk about our fandom. So the problem is when, Peacock can get to this when he talks about Thanksgiving traditions, but I don't want to see a loss. I don't want to see losses. It goes against every fiber of my being.
Harvey Keitel.
Harvey Keitel is the guy.
Yeah. Thanksgiving
Is Harvey Keitel dead, by the way? Is he still alive?
I don't think so. I think he's still alive, right?
Is he still alive?
I heard that one. That one might be a little bit different than me. Man, I would enjoy a win on Thanksgiving. I really would. Thanksgiving might be just a little bit different. Be nice, just chilling off of work, family, dinner. It'd be nice to see the Giants win on Thanksgiving. The last time they played on Thanksgiving, they got absolutely rolled, and it kind of ruined my day. It won't ruin my day this year if they get beat. But, man, the only problem is, if Dallas was 7-2 right now or 7-3, then I'd say, yeah, screw it. Let's win. But we might actually help Dallas pick higher than us if we beat them. I doubt that any kind of tiebreakers would go our way there, but it opens the door to another. We both have 3 wins, right? Assuming things go down this week the way we think they will.
Yeah, I'm not a Giant fan, but I would say win on Thanksgiving. You should want that, right? I mean, is there really if there were an Arch Manning or something coming out, like maybe you'd want to lose, but I don't know that there's going to be a big difference between drafting 2nd or 4th. And I think that's what you're probably looking at. So I would want to win that game if I were you guys. DeVito,
a lot of people,
Thanksgiving,
a lot of people
families
complain
around.
about us winning last year because it cost us Drake May or Jaden Daniels. So
I would agree with that, though.
Yeah,
I agree. You won 3 games with Tommy DeVito. Would you be happy to give those up now to have Jaden Daniels on your team? Of course you would.
I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I'd be more upset about Drake May, who we're trying to trade up for.
Either one, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
like, you would give those 3 weeks up, or those 3 wins up to have a top quarterback on your team right now.
To not have to have suffered through the Daniel Jones show this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Mike also asks, who is most to blame at press conferences? Is it the coaches? Is it the players? Is it the owners? Is it the reporters? Like we get questions at these press conferences. I'm going to put my spin on this. I hate the reporters. The reporters ask some stupid ass questions, and then the players, coaches, and everyone else has to answer for this. We're dealing with this with the Giants, so I didn't bring this up as a pet peeve, but it could have been. But Pat Leonard and Jordan Renan they're shit stirrers, and so they'll ask questions, and you're saying to yourself, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And so to me, those guys are hacks, and yet they put questions out in the universe that people have to answer.
Yeah, I don't know what that means to who's to blame at the press conferences. You mean for the because I some press conferences you don't see them anymore. We've talked about that, but there have been some awesome, epic press conferences that have come from reporters just asking stupid questions. But yeah, if you're wondering like who's to blame at a press conference, it's clearly the reporters. They don't know anything. And as we wrap up tonight, there's another example of that tonight I want to bring up in our sort of one last thing segment there. But yeah, they for someone with so much access and so much familiarity they really are dumb. They really are dumb. Yeah. And we've used the term lazy for them before, and I think it's more that than dumb probably. But yeah.
Yeah, if the context is why are these press conferences so stupid and boring and ridiculous, I would say it's the people asking the questions. Because you're right, Mike. That it's like, can we just come up with some originality? Like, you go to school for all these years to be a journalist, and you come up with these dumbass questions. I just think I blame them.
Yeah.
Well, there's
the laziest question. Like the quarterback throws an interception or a touchdown. Walk us through that. Like what
exactly
kind of question is that? What do you mean? I dropped back. We had a play called. My first read was covered. Second one wasn't. I threw it to him. Touchdown. Next. Like
and I thought about this when Cardone was talking about Dable and his look last week when he was doing play calling. But But Mike asks, does Dable keep a face in a jar by the door for pressers? And I know what he's getting at, because Dable always has that same just stoic face, like just completely non-answering these reporters, which I think I would do. I would be like, fuck you guys, but I would do it in a manner that's not like, fuck you guys.
I think Daboll has gotten he's gotten his little bit of his comeuppance, because he is different in these press conferences now than he was a year or 2 years ago when he was coach of the year. He seems a little defeated, a little bit like a tail between his legs, kind of that kind of mentality, where 2 years ago he was like, fuck you, I'm not going to answer this question. I'm a great coach with doing a great job with his team. Yeah, it to me it seems a little different. Just saying.
Yeah, I think you're right, Novak. That's a good call, and I imagine some of his antics from his first 2 years that might have come from his own family, like his wife going, "You gotta, you gotta reel it in there, jackass." Just. But yeah, I mean, he does. He seems defeated. You got to know all these coaches across the league, every one of them, when they lose a game, they already know the questions before they get into the room, because there's no originality. There's nothing new to talk about. They all know they're going to get to walk us through that questions, or what was your thinking on this? And they know they can't answer that correctly. The headline's going to skew it. It's got to be, I mean, it's got to be like the Baton Death March every time you lose a game, knowing that you have to walk into that room and deal with those people.
You know who Daboll reminds me of from a Jets perspective? Eric Mangini.
The man genius.
Came into the league year one. He was the man genius. Everyone loved him. He's on Sopranos. He was like the God's gift. We were all pumped about him, and then he shit the bed for the next 2 years and got fired.
Yeah,
he very much reminds me of man genius.
If Daboll keeps leaning on analytics like this, I think that's a very apt comparison, because my gut tells me Brian Daboll's a good football coach, but he's coaching the wrong team.
Yep. Agreed. You nail on the head right there.
So I have a good question here from my fraternity brother, Ogre.
Ogre.
He's sending questions before, and he actually knows Ballant.
He's a Jet fan, isn't he?
He is a Jet fan.
Yeah.
And so he asked, Jones for Rodgers trade, who wins? I really don't know this. I mean, for me,
it's a good question.
I actually think the Giants win in the short term. We get Rodgers, we could use him as a bridge quarterback, but I really don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly think the Giants win in that. No, the Jets win in that, because I think Rodgers' personality and the way he is with players, I think the Giants players love Jones. I think the Jets players hate Rodgers, and I think he's a cancer. So I would say the Giants will win in that scenario.
That's a complete toss up to me. To cost point, he's exactly what we need right now. A decent quarterback on his way out the door who can keep the seat warm until, we draft somebody and they come along. Jones is a better locker room presence than Aaron Rodgers. I think that's very, very clear. I don't think there's any question about that. So yeah, I think actually, when you think about it, it probably wouldn't be a bad trade, because it's sort of exactly what each team needs right now.
100%. Yeah.
So it's wouldn't be a bad thing to do. I wonder if they've walked across the field there and had that discussion at all. But yeah,
I would say kudos to Ogre on a very good question. By the way.
Yeah, great question.
So Peacock asks, is there a downside to Tommy Cutlets winning? Of course there is. Yeah. The downside is that the Giants lose draft position, and we don't really know what we still have with Tommy Cutlets. That's my take.
Yeah, I think we know enough about Tommy Cutlets to know that even if somehow the Giants won out with him at quarterback, that he's not a long-term answer at quarterback. Unless he's Kurt Warner all of a sudden coming from out of nowhere. But yeah, there's plenty. I mean, it happened just last year. There's a lot of downside to DeVito winning.
Yeah.
I think the perfect scenario for you guys is he wins 2 games, 1 game, looks really good doing it, and you've got your backup for the next 10 years.
Yep.
I like that idea. I like
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Peacock
How many
also-
losses do we think it's going to take to get the number 1 pick?
I think you got to have 3 wins.
I don't know if we're going to get to the number 1, but I think
I
we're
don't
going to
think
get
you will
to
either.
top 5.
I think Tennessee is locked in at number 1. They're really bad.
Or Jacksonville.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe 5 wins would keep you in the top 5, 4 or 5 wins.
4. I think 4.
Yeah. So Peacock also asks, and he's asked this in the past, but he asked if new listeners might want to hear this, but what our football traditions are for Thanksgiving. So for me, we usually have dinner about 3. So we watch the early game. I usually have the way we sit where I can watch the TV during the dinner. So it's, we're having dinner, but I can watch the game if I need to. And I know where he's going on this because the Cowboys usually play at 4. Usually by 4:25, 4:30 or whatever, we're done with dinner. We've moved on to dessert and we're sitting around watching the game. So we usually watch the late game more than we do the early game, at least in my house. And this year, same way. We're gonna have about 20 people over. I'm smoking a turkey. We're gonna do one in the oven, and we'll probably do the same thing. We'll eat about 2:00. So right around 1:00, we will miss that game, but we'll watch the afternoon game, and I guess the way it is nowadays, we'll watch the evening game.
And then the next day you'll watch the Black Friday game.
Oh,
No, that's right. There's a Black Friday game, which is the Chiefs, I believe, this year.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for me. That first game is kind of on but muted, and we will have music on. And then you kind of eat, like you said, you eat dinner a little early. Then we watch the usually the Cowboys. I guess not always. So sometimes Detroit's been in that 4:00 slot, but yeah, and then just watch the night game. But by then I've usually had too many beers to comprehend what's happening. So.
Well, for me, it's always NFC games, so I could give a shit about either of them. So, I'll watch more of. Actually, I usually watch more of the Detroit game than I do the Dallas game.
Do you guys or any of your wives, if we talked about this before, do you engage in the midnight shopping? Anybody go out at
No.
Not anymore.
bust out the door at Target?
I think that was a thing we used to do the Black Friday thing, and nowadays when they moved it up and everything else, we started boycotting that. But yeah,
we don't do that. Nope.
Yeah, me neither.
So Coons asks, he wants to know if we're a GM, except for Joe Douglas, of course, because he got fired. But who are we picking for our first 2 draft picks next year?
First 2. Does he mean one for the Giants, one for the Jets, or the
2
first
each,
2 rounds?
I think
Oh.
2 each. Yeah, I think first 2
So I'll
rounds.
go first with the Jets. I think, if we're in the top 7 or 8, which we probably will be, we have to go quarterback. I really do, unless we think Jordan Travis is going to be the future, which I don't quite see, but maybe. And then look, I'm always an offensive line guy, so I would love to get another right tackle or a guard or something like that to protect whoever we do draft. If not that, then I would go edge because Reddick's going to be gone. I would go that direction. Edge, which I fucking hate.
Edge.
Defensive end. Can I
It's a
just say
new-
that?
It's a new position.
Oh, I hate
Edge.
that.
They just came from out of nowhere.
So
Yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Scott. I am not up to speed on this. I'm having to cheat. So
I'm thinking where the Giants pick. And I think they're going to pick probably 4 to 6, somewhere around there. I think they're going to take Milroe from Alabama. That's the guy I like, and so it's bias because I think his skill set is probably the best out of the core. I like Cam Ward, but I think Milroe has probably the best mix of running versus passing aptitude. Second round is a crapshoot. I will say this in the second round. I think the Giants should go cornerback or safety in the second round.
Yeah, agreed. Assuming we pick around fifth, it'll be Milrow or Cam Ward if he's still there. I don't know that I am in love with either of those picks. I do think they're both talented guys. I don't know if, I kind of feel about Milrow the same way I felt last year about Caleb Williams. I don't know if he's really NFL built. Cam Ward, it would be my choice out of those two. I've mentioned before, I would love to trade that pick, take a corner.
You like Jackson Dart, right?
Yeah, Jackson Dart later in the draft. I mean, I even think he might fall to the second round, the way things are looking now, which I don't know why he's fallen. He's been playing really well lately. But yeah, that's the guy I like as an NFL quarterback. But, depending on how things go between now and the draft, I mean, that could be a second or third round pick. He probably doesn't make it to the third, but yeah, I'd love to trade that pick. I always want an offensive lineman, probably not early this year, but corner, safety, quarterback has to be our first things to address. No doubt. Or a good fullback. Maybe we get a good fullback.
So
a good long snapper would be nice.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd go short this week.
Well, we could go. I would not hate going kicker. If there's one of those superstar kickers in the NFL, our kicking woes are so bad. Oh, sorry.
We're going to need a kicker next year. No, we're going to need a kicker. So I was going to say, I'm surprised because without Cardone, I thought we'd go really short this week. We didn't. You guys got anything else?
Yeah, I had one or two things here, and I don't know if I've made good enough notes, but have you guys seen the thing going around that they take every team's one-score games and they flip the result?
Oh, I saw that. The Giants are really in good position.
Yeah, the Giants are the third seed in the NFC right now with one score game results flipped. So that means even ones they won by one score get flipped too. It's just every team. But the Jets are a little bit better. I think the Jets are right on the edge of the playoffs there. But the thing I thought was funny about that was, so if you take the one-score games, flip the result of the one-score games, the Panthers are still 1-9. They got worse. And the Chiefs are way down there too. The Chiefs are like out of the playoff picture in that scenario. So, but I found that to be interesting. And then what did I just say? I said I had an interesting note about that while Scott was talking, and I didn't write it down. That might have been it. Maybe that was it. I think that was what it was.
All right. Well,
guys of our age have to write things down.
We do. Very much so.
We will be back next week. By the way, guys, I know a lot of people are losing interest in the Giants and the Jets because of the way the seasons are going, but the one thing about this pod is that we'll continue to rail on the NFL as a whole. So
no doubt.
How can we not? You can continue to count on us for that.
Yep. And figuring out who the best Satan was in any movie. Anything like that, man. We probably
keep it interesting. I would love more of that.
Yeah, we probably need more of that to finish this year out. We're gonna have to go
more
off topic.
Questions. We need more questions like that.
Yeah, but it's they always used to say that like losing is when you get all the traffic, right? No one wants to hear you talk about how great you are every week, but losing, people tune in to hear that misery. Losing drives clicks until it gets this bad. Then apathy sets in, and then you need to talk about sitcoms.
Yeah, apathy sets in. Yeah, exactly. All right, so we'll be back next week. We will talk about apathy. We'll talk about the Jets finally playing. Well, they'll be on a bye.
Yeah.
So they can't lose. And the Giants will probably lose to the Buccaneers. So we'll see what happens.
Exactly 24-10, apparently.
Yeah.